Hello everybody. Today's video covers the Chapter 10 mid-chapter quiz on Aleks, and I'm going to run through some of the questions just to kind of give you an idea and help you out with some of the more challenging questions. Remember, if at any point you have a question that I didn't answer, or if you just need more explanation, please let me know. Send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So let's start off with question 2. We have this equation, and this will refer to also question 1 to kind of help you. So we have this equation with a radical sign, and if you remember, we always want to deal with that radical sign. We want to get rid of it first. Well, we want to get it by itself first, I should say. So in order to do that here, I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and when I do that, I get 2 equals the square root of 3w minus 11. Now to get rid of the root, we square both sides, and I get 4 equals 3w minus 11. And then we add 11 to both sides, and we get 15 equals 3w. And then last step, divide by 3, and I get w equals 5. So that's kind of the process behind solving this equation with this radical sign. Moving on to question 3, very similar, but now we have 2 variables, 1 on each side. So when I get 7x minus 6 in the radical sign equals x, we start by squaring both sides just like normal, and I get 7x minus 6 equals x squared. Now I want to move everything to one side to make sure it's nice and simple. That way we can factor it. So x squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0, and now I can factor it. I know that x times x equals 6, or sorry, x times x equals x squared, and now I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me 6, but add to give me 7. The only way that this works is with a 6 and a 1, and since my answer is positive for the 6 and my 7 is negative, they both have to be negative. So then I get x equals 6 or x equals 1. So either of these would work. You could separate them by commas in your answer when you plug it in. Moving on to question 4, we want to know the domain of this function. Now remember, the domain is the x value, so we're trying to figure out which x values will work for x minus 9. Remember, we want anything that is not negative, so 0 and above. Well, what makes the inside of the radical 0? Well, that would be 9. And then anything smaller than 9, for example, if I chose x equals 8, that would make it negative 1, but we can't take the square root of a negative. So 8 doesn't work, so it has to be 9 or bigger. So that means x is greater than or equal to 9. And that's how I would answer that question on question 4. Question 5, I didn't take a picture of this one, but it is a graphing question, and this is a question you'll definitely want to use the Desmos graphing calculator to help you. You could also make a table if you wanted, but just know that you can use that option. Moving on to question 6, we have the negative square root of 50 minus 3 root 8. Remember, when we're adding or subtracting, we have to have the same radical sign and the same number inside of the radical. So to figure this out, I need to break it down to figure out, is there any hidden perfect squares in here? Well, 50 can be broken down into 25 and 2. Since we know that the square root of 25 is 5, we can bring out the 5, so minus 5, and then what's left? Well, the 2. So negative 5 root 2. Minus, my 8 can be broken down into 4 and 2. The square root of 4 is 2, so I bring it out and multiply it by 3. So 2 times 3 is 6, and I'm left with root 2. Negative 5 minus 6 is negative 11 root 2. Okay? So that is how you would go about a question like number 6. Number 7, you have 3 radical signs, so you're going to do the same exact thing as what I just did in number 6. Um, but you're just going to have to do it 3 separate times. Remember, if what's inside the radical is not the same, for example, say I had 2 root 3 plus 3 root 5, I can't add those together because these two have to be the same in order to put them together. So just keep that in mind when you're going about solving these questions. When you're multiplying or dividing, remember, or let's just stick with multiplying. Whenever you're multiplying, you don't have to have the same radical sign. You can just multiply it as it is. So right now we're multiplying, we're squaring here. So this one has the root of x plus root 2, and then this is squared, so it's going to look like this, right? And remember, we need to FOIL. I can't just do square root of x squared plus the square root of 2 squared. That's not how that works, right? We have to FOIL it out, okay? The only time that does work is if we're doing difference of squares. But this is just a perfect square, so I have to multiply first terms. Square root of x times the square root of x is x. Outside terms, square root of x times the square root of 2 is just going to be the square root of 2x. Square root of 2 times the square root of x is the square root of 2x, plus the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, which is square root of 4, which is 2. So now we have x plus 2, or square root of 2x plus the square root of 2x plus 2, but we can combine here these two to 2 root 2x, and we leave everything else the same, right? So that's the first part. We can't just do square root of x plus square root of 2. That's not just going to be x plus 2, okay? There's a additional middle term here. With the second one, these ones are going to be conjugates of each other, which means it's a difference of squares, which means that middle term is going to cancel out. So I can just do the first term, x, square root of x times the square root of x, which is x, and I can do these two multiplied together. 3 times 3 is 9, and square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is square root of 4, which is 9 times 2, which is 18. So my answer for that one would be x minus 18. So that's the difference between those two. I hope this was helpful, and remember, if you do have questions, please let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I hope that you have a great day, and thanks for watching.